Welcome back to Asset Management Group's podcast. I'm Andrew Nida with Moise Param. And you know what, man? Every single week we hit financial topics, right? We're trying to figure out and guide and help educate on areas to improve one's financial life. Stewardship, investing, markets, strategy, all the things. Mm-hmm. But in light of, a lot of the things that we've witnessed, just in the last several weeks, not to mention just the month of September for that matter, historically, figured you and I both decided we just go a little bit different direction with this week's show.
Yeah. It's obviously what we do on a day-to-day basis is ask people and ask our clients, what are some of the most important goals in your life and how do we tie your finances to make sure you reach those goals? But in light of what we've experienced over the last few days, last few weeks, and like you mentioned, September being historically for the last 24 years, a very monumental month, it's worth it for us just to take a step back and really just take a big picture look of life overall and the value of life. Yeah. Because, for, these last few days, last few weeks, it feels like, at least for me, that the value of life has just been extinguished in some aspects.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, from school shootings to Charlie Kirk to this young lady from Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're missing several in the mix, right? It's just the reality is we live in a dark society right now. And there's a lot of hatred and it's tough. I mean, you and I have the same, moral outlook, same spiritual outlook. And so, you and I and many of the people that we hang out with every day, we can talk at the same page, right? But that's not true for the United States. It's not true for our society. And, for whatever reason, I just think like, at least when I read the headlines, I mean, you get a lot of media, mm-hmm. right, that control the headlines and a lot of this hate back and forth.
Yeah.
That, hey, the far left, you're the cause of XYZ, or the far right, you're the cause of XYZ. And I'm thinking, well, does media really have, control? And then I'm thinking, and Amy and I, my wife, we were talking about this. I said, if in some sense they do, because if I took my two boys, I'm raising three boys, but if I took, let's say, my two older sons, and I presented a message to one of them consistently over time, and to the other one, I presented a different message, and the message was to basically hate and dislike each other. They're going to eventually, regardless of their own intent to try to understand each other, they're going to have this hate, I would believe, I would think. When you're presenting the message constantly, exposing only the negative of one, subset of the population versus the other, you're going to get hatred, and unfortunately you take hatred, you remove morality from our society. You cut through the moral fabric that this country was built on. You get tragedy.
Yeah.
And that's, in some sense, I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, the media has always, not say always, but the media lately have had a lot of control over the way people think. If you have trusted figures that have either been paid or maybe it's actually what they actually believe in. But, the media's job and role is to keep us entertained and to keep us focused and to keep their attention driven on whatever side they're on. And so, I try to stay away from as much of media as possible. And obviously in our role in our industry, we have to be up to date with the markets, with tax laws, with different strategies. And so, we have to at least be in the know of some media outlets. But for the most part, I try to just stay away as much as I can, because at this point now, I really do feel that we are being lied to. Mm-hmm. The old adage of there's three sides to the story: your side, my side, and the truth lies somewhere in between there. Mm-hmm. And I think the media kind of spins it where it's just one side only.
Right.
And so whether you're listening to Fox News, then it seems like it's skewed one way. If you listen to like a CNN or NPR, skewed one way. And I think you have those that have, gravitated towards either side. and have chosen that the other side is the enemy.
Is the enemy.
Is the absolute enemy. And actually, I was having a conversation with a client today, and she has been following me on social media, and it kind of came to her that we view politics a little differently, and she was a little taken aback by it. But at the end of the day, I told her, you've been a client for over 10 years now, and it's now that things are heightened in the country. My political views, your political views seem to be clashing on your side. But have I steered you wrong in any direction since we've been working together?
Right.
And she said no. And I said there was a point in time where two people could disagree and agree to disagree, but as long as the moral fabric between the two people were equally yoked, you could still work together. You could still talk together.
Yeah, I mean, if you just had some general respect for other people.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, and that's not saying that one side does and the other side doesn't. I mean, even in the church, you and I both believe in the Christian faith, and there are just as much sinners and flawed individuals in the church as there is out of the church, right? Mm-hmm. So you get it everywhere because we're people. And the way that you and I see it is that we're all way short of perfection. We live in a fallen and a broken society. But all we have to do is have respect for our fellow brother. Yeah. I mean, just to be able to, and I think, when I look at Charlie Kirk, I'm like, man, this guy was so young.
So young, 31 years old.
31 years old, had success and wisdom far beyond his age. Mm-hmm. It was all over social media. It has been all over social media. And I think the reason is, and hopefully America can realize this, he connected at the household level with so many youth, so many Americans. Amy and I were comparing this to Dude Perfect. You've heard of Dude Perfect, right? The guys, they're fun or whatever. Well, they just recently sold 10% of their company. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so they sold 10% of the company. They're raising capital or whatever. And I was watching the interview, and the interview was them talking about how they went through the process of selecting this investor. And they said they knew when the company came in, and it wasn't about the money. They understood what they stood for. And what they stood for and the way they articulated it was, they have, by the grace of God, and this is coming out of their mouth, and the opportunity, have been able to become a safe outlet for the American family. And so that the mother and father of a household can know that when they hear the YouTube reels on or TV on and they hear that show playing, that they have created such a trust that the parents are like, I don't have to worry about it. I can trust them. And I think in some sense, Charlie Kirk had that. He had this connection with the youth. And what's crazy is on both sides of the spectrum, right? Even people that completely disagreed with his views, which I believe, they're going to chalk a lot of this up to a political, assassination. The truth is, in my opinion, he was never fighting for politics. He was fighting for truth. And to me, he was a modern day disciple. And if you listen to a lot of the conversations that he had with people, it wasn't out of hate. People, they disagreed. He created a healthy environment for himself and his views to be able to challenge the status quo, but then also for students to be able to navigate and present their outlook.
And I think that's what a college campus should be. Right?
Absolutely.
A college campus should be a place where students, think about it. I went to NYU, right? So you have students from New York, you have students from throughout the country, and then you have international students. So you'll have different religions, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different cultures, all coming together with different ideas. And, you should feel challenged in some ways at a university. And it's not a bad thing for your beliefs to be challenged, because if they're challenged, I believe there's two things that could happen, right? Either your views could be changed because maybe you didn't think about it in some certain way, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, I'm enlightened a little bit. I didn't think about it in those sorts. Or your views could be heightened because you're
Right.
doing more research, or you just feel more emboldened. But I think that civil discourse that a university presents itself is a perfect opportunity for what Charlie Kirk was trying to do. Was he had a view that he felt was the truth and gave students the opportunity to either agree or disagree and have a intelligent conversation. Now, if you go on YouTube or in different social media, parts of these shows that he was doing, you see the good and the bad. Right. You see the antagonizers that were really, going after him on a personal level. Really had no
Once again,
no
just
agenda.
that hatred kind of coming to light.
Speech, wanted their 30 seconds of fame. But then you also had those who had opposing views, but were able to articulate and have a genuine conversation with him, and he respected that.
Yeah.
He would go on different shows and different talk shows. That he knew the interviewer was on the other side of what he believed in, but the two of them were able to have a conversation. And that's been lost now, where it's just, if I don't like your views, I may not even know you personally. I've never met you. I've never seen you. I've never spoken to you. But if I don't like what you say on social media, or in a post, or in a magazine or newspaper, I hate you. And
I should have a right to eliminate you.
Yeah, I have the right to eliminate you. I have the right to cancel you. And I was telling Drew, your son, the other day, I'm 44 years old. So 30 years ago, if I didn't like Charlie Kirk, who would know? Well, my friends and maybe people in my house, right? Because I would, raise my hands up in the air. But that's as far as it went. The furthest I could do is if I knew his address or the address of his company, I could write a letter, send it out, and hopefully he gets it. Mm-hmm. And then social media comes around, and now I can write mean tweets or I can write mean comments, and it will get to him, especially now with the rise of social media. But now it's gone even further. Now it's, if I do not like you, I have given myself the full authority to eliminate you.
Well, it's beyond that,
happened.
To add another layer into that, what you also have is I don't like someone, and you threw in the layers all the way up to social media. But now, once you've voiced your opinion on social media, now you have corporations and institutions that are now using their algorithms and their technology to ensure that button gets pushed and fueled. Mm-hmm. So then they just fuel all of that which they already know about you, and then create a group around you to help build up that motive. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's sickening. It really is sickening. I mean, I'm thinking, and it's sickening for anybody. Like, I mean, it doesn't, Charlie Kirk or anybody that's literally just out there communicating, right? Nobody has to attend and leave believing exactly the way he believes. No client of ours, not all client of ours believe exactly how we believe. Yeah. And that's okay. But to not be able to have a healthy discourse and conversation about it, it's so sad. I think, and you and I, we sat, what was it? Last year, we were at the men's conference at our church. And I love the way, who did Pastor James do the interview with? It was Doug Dynasty. Yes, thank you, Lord of Mercy. Yeah. But when they were doing the interview, he mentioned, he said, I like to ask 3 questions to anybody. And I thought, what, these questions are perfect. Like, this is something that we should keep in the back of our mind. And every viewer of this show or this video should ask themselves the same 3 questions, and everybody should. And that is, how did I get here? Why am I here? And where am I going? There is one thing for certain. The death toll is 100%.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, we know that when we say where we're going, death is going to happen. Now, is it going to be a doorway into an eternal life, heaven or hell? That's a question you got to wrestle with. Those 3 questions everybody has to wrestle with. They can't be ignored. And when you go through the process of answering those questions, then you have to wrestle with the further in-depth version of those questions, which is, why do I think certain things are right or wrong? What is morality? Mm-hmm. If there is a moral code, meaning that we as people subscribe to this base knowledge of right and wrong, we as people are created, then we have to answer the question, how were we created? Was it a Big Bang Theory, which is odd? Can nothing create nothing? Or did we have a creator? I've never seen a book written without an author, a house built without a builder, or anything made without a maker.
Yeah.
So, these are questions that everybody has to answer. And it's okay if someone answers it maybe a bit different. But you have to be confident with the wrestling of those questions, I think.
Yeah, and that second question is, I think, well, you kind of work your way backwards, right? Where am I going? And depending on where you think you're going, kind of dictates what you're going to do, what you're doing right now. But I think
Definitely should.
It should, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people aren't thinking about that question. What am I doing right now? Like, what am I doing with my life at this moment in time? Whether it's with your family, whether it's at work, whether it's in your community, whether it's with your friend group, your spouse, whatever it is, right? In the moment and season that you're in right now, what are you doing, right?
And what are you doing it for?
And what are you doing it for? And, for someone like a Charlie Kirk, what was he doing was trying to inspire people, but really targeting the youth because, the youth are very susceptible. You talked about all the algorithms. Well, who do you think is being targeted the most? Your 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. They're very impressionable. So he wanted to, make sure that they had an outlet to know the truth. And what was he doing it for? For a change in discourse and a change in the country and a change in the world. And I think when we as a society really take a step back and say, what are we doing right now? If you really take a healthy look at that, and knowing that if you work with the end in mind, then I believe it would really, really change your day-to-day actions.
Oh, yeah.
I think the sad part about, one of the sad parts about, some of the tragedies that we've seen recently, we're talking about young people, 20s and 30s, that have theoretically had a whole life ahead of them, 50, maybe even 60 more years to make an impact in this world. And their lives were cut short. And, obviously I don't know him personally, but I feel from what I see is that he took his day very intentional, intentional with his words, intentional with his time. And I hope that, people, whoever's listening now, take that to heart. Be very intentional with your time. Like you said, the death rate is 100%.
Yeah.
And be very intentional with your time because we're not promised tomorrow. We're going through the book of Ecclesiastes at church, and it's very challenging book. But, basically the preface of the book is everything under the sun is meaningless.
Yeah.
You can live a righteous life or you can live a life of a drunkard, but both lives lead to death. So unless you have a moral compass, aka God, in the center of your decisions, then it's basically meaningless life. It's all vanity.
Yeah, which is, it is tough, because what we do for a living every single day is we're talking about stewardship. We're talking about wealth and wealth creation and all these things. But like you said, at the end of the day, it's gone. Right? I mean, you pass away, and this was one of the things I enjoyed, and I guess we can wrap it up shortly, but is the question that was presented early in this series was, like a show of hands of how many people in the room remember the first name of their grandfather, and then great-grandfather, and then great-great-grandfather. Well, by the time you got like 3 generations out, there wasn't very many people with their hands up.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just the proof that the evidence that you will be forgotten is true. So that which we need to wrestle with, the purpose of life, is so vitally important because what you're living for is not something that's going to likely be here forever, right? Your day-to-day life and what you do should be so intentional with people, loving, encouraging. You should be the presence that enlightens the room, type of thing. And
to the point where you're not forgotten. because
Right.
you've done so much. There's so much of an impact that you've made within your family, within your community, within, maybe even the world, right? If you made that much of a lasting impact.
Absolutely. And, I just, that was a good conversation.
I think so. It's a, it's a little off script, but I think that at the end of the day, it's on people's minds. I think on a day-to-day basis, when something like this happens, life kind of just becomes magnified, and the importance of life and the value of life. And if you're really doing some introspection, it's like, what am I here for?
Yeah, I think if you're leaving this video with anything, you leave with those 3 questions. You got to
say them again. Say the 3 questions again.
So it's how did I get here? Mm-hmm. Why am I here?
That's right.
And where am I going when I leave?
Love it.
And I think you leave here, you wrestle with those questions. You don't chalk it up to a YouTube reel that you saw. You don't chalk it up to some answer that a friend gave you. You personally go and you wrestle with that. And at the end of the day, you stand for something. And because if you don't, as the old country song says, you'll fall for anything, right?
Yeah.
So find something to stand for. Be bold in what you stand for. And then be okay with it being challenged. With someone like a Charlie Kirk coming by and asking you a question, right? That's okay. And like you said, it either strengthens your belief or it refines it. And either one of those are a good solution.
Good solution.
So hope you guys enjoyed it on the podcast today. That said, Andrew Nida.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Whoa. Today.
Oh, my gosh.
Special day, guys. It's your birthday.
It is my birthday.
Happy birthday,
my
brother.
birthday. Thanks, man. Last year in a decade, but I ain't gonna say which one. The gray hair should give it away.
But
anyway.
Enjoy spending time with your family. Happy birthday. Love you, brother. And we'll see you all next week.
I appreciate it too, man. Thank you.
No problem.